Prepare to witness your favorite fantasy anime make their epic return this year in 2026. It's got all the fan-favorite sequels that are making their return. In case you didn't know any of these are getting a second season, well, this video here will help you and guide you to keep track of what is coming back to add into your watch list. Get ready for your watch lists, ladies and gents, because it's time to dive right into the action fantasy adventure.
察しが悪いね。お前はクビで。
All this guy just wanted a quiet life as a craftsman, but the world keeps forcing him to reveal power that he doesn't even know he has. But this show focuses on one of the most satisfying fantasy concepts, an overpowered main character who doesn't even realize how special they really are. The main character simply wants to live a peaceful life while working in an atelier, crafting and creating stuff. However, his natural talent and hidden abilities slowly attract attention, pulling him into larger events and conflicts. But what makes it good is especially engaging is the contrast between his humble personality and also the massive impact that he has on the world or the kingdom that he's working for. Viewers who enjoy watching powerful characters who stay grounded, and this creates both comedy and tension. But the story also emphasizes creativity and craftsmanship and problem solving rather than just pure combat, which makes it feel fresh compared to a typical action-focused fantasy. In a world where magic decides your worth, but what happens when the strongest warrior has absolutely none? That's because we have Wisteria Wand and Sword Season 2 coming next.
剣ではついに至る。愚かな願望など捨てろ。それでも僕は。
It delivers one of the most classic yet powerful fantasy setups, a magicless underdog in a world that is ruled by magic. The main character, Will, cannot use magic at all in an elite magical academy where status and survival truly depend on it. But instead, he trains relentlessly with the sword, aiming to reach the top purely through physical strength alone and determination. But what makes a story so addictive is just the emotional drive behind Will's journey. He's not chasing power for pride or just revenge. He's just motivated by a deep personal promise and the desire to stand alongside someone very important to him up in the Wizard Tower. This gives the series a strong emotional core that will keep viewers invested in every fight and every step of his journey and growth. But the anime also stands out visually and structurally. It combines high-quality animation by Studio Wit, intense action, and a clear long-term goal, which creates strong progression and huge anticipation. So definitely do look forward to Season 2.
同じくハイデンから来たクレンバーティスだ。よろしく頼む。
Here we have the greatest enemy of humanity. And this is because he has become now the last hope for humanity. But this focuses on a Demon King's perspective instead of the hero's journey. Instead of watching humanity struggle to defeat evil, the story actually explores what happens when a powerful ruler of monsters is forced to understand humans after encountering a fragile child. But what makes the series so addictive is just the emotional contrast. Clevatus begins as a cold and ruthless being or a monster, but the story gradually builds tension through his evolving curiosity and connection to humanity. He wants to learn more about this species. This creates a slow burn emotional progression that feels fresh compared to typical action-heavy fantasy. But the stakes are not just about survival or power, it's about finding identity, morality, and coexistence between the monsters and the humans and all that. But this truly brings lots of variety and depth, making it stand out from standard isekai and power fantasy shows. It also adds big emotional weight and psychological themes, which helps all the viewers who will watch this, keep them engaged and interested in something different while staying within the fantasy genre. Now, sometimes the strongest warrior isn't the hero, it's the one who's been training in silence for years and years. Up next on the list, we have the good old From Country Bumpkin to Master Swordsman Season 2, baby. This anime focuses on experience, maturity, and growth later in life, which is such a refreshing change from the usual teenage fantasy protagonist. But instead of a chosen hero or someone suddenly gaining immense power, the story follows a simple, humble, overlooked man who slowly proves that strength comes from years of discipline and hard work. What makes this show engaging is its grounded and realistic approach to swordsmanship and personal growth. The main character, Beryl, isn't flashy or arrogant. He's very calm, he's practical, and deeply skilled, which creates a satisfying contrast when he reveals his true power or abilities later on in the show. But watching people underestimate him, only to be shocked later by his power, builds really just strong payoff. It brings variety and emotional relatability, especially for older viewers or just anyone in general who enjoys underdog stories that focus on mastery rather than raw talent. Next up, we have the great return of Delicious in Dungeon Season 2. This amazing anime truly blends fantasy adventure with cooking in a way that feels very fresh. But instead of focusing only on battles and power levels, the story explores survival inside dangerous dungeons where the characters literally cook and eat the monsters that they defeat inside the dungeon. What makes it especially strong is that the food concept isn't just a gimmick. It's tied directly to the world building, the character growth, and the survival elements or the themes that is going to be presented to you. But as the group journeys deeper into the dungeons to rescue lost companions, every meal becomes part of their strategy, their bonding time, and emotional development. There is a lot of slice of life in this one, and action here and there, of course. But this creates a unique mix of tension, humor, and heart. Delicious in Dungeon stands out because it breaks expectations. Viewers think that it's just comedy at first, but the deeper they go, the darker and more emotional the story will become. So, watch it, and you will find out how truly good this anime is. This protagonist watched the world end with him and his companions, and now he's about to go back to rewrite it by traveling into the past. The long-awaited A Returner's Magic Should Be Special is indeed getting a sequel in 2026.
一人でも多くの才能を目覚めさせるんだ。あの悲劇を乗り越えるために。
This fantasy anime combines time regression, strategy, and academy fantasy into one big, tight, binge-worthy package. Instead of starting powerless, the main character returns to the past after witnessing the world's destruction. Armed with future knowledge, he's determined to prevent tragedy and save the people he once lost. What makes this series engaging isn't just power, it's intelligence and also preparation. The protagonist wins through planning, analysis, and leadership rather than brute strength alone. That alone makes fights feel strategic instead of predictable. It greatly appeals to viewers who like smart or intelligent main characters and structured, powered growth. Now just imagine getting scorched to death by a dragon. Whew, that's a shocker. Only to then return as something far worse than you expected. The unwanted undead adventurer takes a dark, slow burn progression approach instead of the usual overpowered fantasy formula, but well, he actually becomes overpowered later on. But the story follows an ordinary young man, an adventurer who dies in a dungeon and is reborn as a weak undead. From that point, the entire journey becomes about survival, evolution, and rebuilding his own humanity. What makes the series truly addictive and engaging is the realistic and grounded growth. The main character starts at the absolute bottom, hiding his identity while slowly evolving into stronger forms. This creates tension and mystery because every step forward feels really earned. This is perfect for people who enjoy darker and that methodological fantasy that involves leveling up or evolving into a stronger being after defeating many enemies. This protagonist trained his entire life to survive, but accidentally became one of the strongest fighters in the world. I Parry Everything is indeed getting a sequel very soon for you guys to watch. For viewers who enjoy fantasy with humor and overpowered characters, then this one is definitely for you. But instead of being strong because of, magic or talent, the main character becomes absurdly powerful simply by mastering one basic defensive skill, and that is parrying. What makes the series addictive is the contrast between how others see him as a genius warrior while he genuinely believes that he is weak. So yeah, he's oblivious to his own power, which kind of sucks, but hey, you get what you get. But this creates both comedy and, of course, hype, because every battle feels ridiculous yet so satisfyingly earned. The story keeps viewers hooked by showing how far someone can go through pure effort and misunderstanding. The guy may have been, kicked out from every academy that he joined for not being able to get to the next level, but they don't realize that he has mastered the basic magic or ability that he has learned in the academy to the fullest, making him so strong. Yet the only issue is, like I said before, yeah, he's oblivious to his own powers.
先生の治療はいつ見ても惚れ惚れするね。こんなすごいヒーラーがいるとはな。ライセンスもないしがない闇ヒーラーだぞ。
The brilliant healer's new life in the shadows focuses on a support class protagonist stepping into the independence instead of staying in the background. But after being underestimated and discarded from his party, the healer chooses to build a new life away from traditional heroes' parties, using his own intelligence and skill to carve his own path. What makes the story so good is the mix of calm strategy and, of course, the hidden competence. But the main character isn't loud or flashy, but his deep understanding of powerful healing magic and tactics allow him to quietly outperform those who once ignored him. But that slow recognition arc creates satisfying payoff moments later. But now, the healer opens up his very own secret underground clinic and lives in the shadows away from society. But word starts spreading of a brilliant and talented healer living somewhere in the shadows, and people are out there trying to find out who this man is. And finally, we have a protagonist who didn't leave the strongest party because he was weak. He left by his own choice because his party just didn't appreciate his true talent, and they all treated him like a chore boy instead. The main focus from the usual selfish power fantasy to mentorship and legacy. But instead of chasing fame or strength, the main character chooses to leave a top-tier party and invest the next generation. That emotional and growth-driven angle makes it so refreshing in a genre full of revenge and betrayal. But the story explores leadership, teaching, and responsibility, showing how experience and wisdom can be more powerful than raw strength. But watching his former students grow, struggle, and overcome dungeon challenges creates a satisfying and motivating journey that keeps viewers invested. But the party consists of mostly female characters and he's the only guy, which means this is a harem, more or less, but I am just so damn glad that it is getting a sequel because this is definitely a very fun and satisfying anime to watch. If this video did indeed help that empty space of giving you more fantasy anime to watch, which I hope it did, then do give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments down below which anime you are going to be watching from this list. And until next time, I will see you in the next video.